Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another Watch Me Work, where I will be working for the most part. Hopefully, you can find something useful out of this, or just listen to the dulcet tones of my speaking voice. This is the project that I've been working on for the last week and a half, here, making little progress here and there. It is a Birds of Prey fan series featuring Black Canary and Oracle, which are DC Comics superhero characters. You have the internet right in front of you in case you want to look any of that up. We have decided Oracle is an information broker, much like the TV show Arrow. There's a character named Felicity that does it. TV show Flash is usually Cisco, although I think Iris was doing it. I'm not caught all the way up in Flash. We're in season 3. So at the beginning of season 3, when, spoiler alert, Flash is trapped in the Speed Force, Iris is doing kind of the information broker thing. It's in like every CBS cop show drama for old people. That's Oracle in a nutshell. I would consider her maybe one of the original information brokers, but I don't have the research to back that up. That kind of thing exists, I'm sure, in different forms in fiction for a while. She was the first one that I remember in comic books doing it. Well, she was obviously post-Monitor, but Monitor is its own thing. I was trying to think if there was anybody else like that, but anyway, that's not this tutorial. This is not a tutorial on the history of Marvel or DC Comics and who was an information broker. Bottom line is we have this character named Oracle. She normally uses banks of computer screens, but we decided to be clever and go, I was like, I want some goddamn smart glasses on her because it look cool and whatnot. So there we go. We did these smart glasses, which I will show you when we get to the actual thing, but we basically rigged some EL wire in them. And then I was like, I'll just put some HUD graphics for heads-up display. I'll just put some graphics on them in post because always fix things in post. One of the reasons that I torture myself with these projects like this is that I constantly want to learn stuff, even at my advanced age. So the idea that I'm going to try to learn special effects software at the age of 54 is kind of fucking bonkers. But I'm like, I'll just use that as an excuse. This glorious mess on my screen is Davinci Resolve, which is a software suite that originally came out for color correction and then had integrated stuff for editing and eventually Fusion, which is special effects, and Fairlight, which is sound, and that was all to compete directly with the Adobe suite of stuff, which good for them. I'm a big Adobe fan, but I am a bigger competition fan. I think competition spurns companies to do better things. The video game equivalent of this is the Madden football franchise. Somehow convinced the NFLPA that it was a good idea to give them exclusive rights to all the player names for the next million years. So now we don't have any other NFL game except for Madden, and Madden was never the best NFL football game, even when there were other competitors. Maybe when the first couple of years when it came out when there weren't any other competitors. But games like Front Page Sports and EA's 2K series were just kind of flat better. You're going to hear me unnaturally pause here and there. One, it's because I'll be working. Two, because I'm really trying to cut the ums and the uhs out of my speech patterns, but it happens naturally, obviously. Not the most accomplished speaker, but that's something I'm trying again to teach myself. It all wraps up. So I looked up a few tutorials on how to use Fusion in the basic sense, and I've been torturing myself to learn the more extended stuff on it. These are the little lenses for the graphics, for the little graphics on the glasses. All of these little nodes go into creating those. The other videos that I have up talk a lot about this, so I'm not going to talk a lot about this because, again, this isn't a direct tutorial as much as a watching me work and do things where you might accidentally learn some stuff. This is the Fusion tab. So the short version of this is that I managed to somehow finally get graphics that I was happy with. We got a little text thing on the bridge of the nose that'll show up when these are glasses and all this little stuff that's moving. I spent like days and days on this. And the funny thing is when I show you this, you can't even see this shit for the most part. Like you can barely see it. So it feels like in some ways wasted time. But later on, if there's close-ups of her, because I don't have all the specific pieces of footage memorized, because that would be crazy. It may turn out to be good that I did such detail. All right, so we're going to go to the Edit tab, which is where, and you can see that I basically took this Fusion composition, I made 50 seconds of it, and then I chopped it up into bits. And I chopped it up into bits so that I could take each bit into each little piece of footage without having like a 50-second piece of footage for a 5-second clip, which was dumb. And I also didn't want to specifically time out every single clip and edit like really specific time ones, because that also seemed like a lot of extra work as well. So there might be a clip over 5 seconds, probably not, or 10 seconds, 5 seconds. There definitely are clips over 5 seconds, but not that much longer. And there are a lot of clips that are shorter than that. So that's how that'll work out. So we're going to go down here. This is the edit page. This is where I'm doing the composition work. For example, this will be the first clip that I worked on. So I go into the clip. I've got the stuff already tracked. I figured out how to do the tracking thanks to numerous tutorials online with these little planar tracker nodes. You don't need that image plane, so off you go. I always check when I come in here to make sure, for some reason, this proxy button turns off automatically. So I want to come back in and turn it on so I get the proxies when things are running. It makes things run smoother. And as you can tell here, as it's applied, you can barely see the graphics basically. So this is what the lenses look like on their own, doing their thing. Did a piece of test footage, which I'll blow up real big for you. There we go. So you can see she kind of wheels up. She's got all these crazy neat little graphics on the thing. It's not true 3D because, again, I'm teaching myself how to do this. It's not the kind of, I'm not trying to build a special effects reel so I could spend, a few weeks trying to mess around and learn, or however long it takes. I mean, I have no idea, to learn how to do the various 3D cameras and whatnot. But it's a fan film. I want it to look decent, but I don't need it to look like a fucking Avengers movie. So with this corner pin, I put the graphic in here, and then I adjust the corners of it, which you can see are keyframed over here, in order to make it look like it's floating in front of her glasses. And I initially had it set on something that would appear, I'm umming a lot because now I have something in my eye. So this thing is basically, today is a total disaster, which is awesome. I had it originally look like it was over the top of her glasses, but that looks flat and weird. And my partner and I talked about it, and she's like, it needs to look 3D, or could it look 3D, basically. She's not demandy that way. And I said it could. What that would mean is, because I'm working two-dimensionally, is I slide things over this direction to give it the illusion. So any special effects person is going to look at it and go, oh yeah, that's totally janky 2D trying to pretend like it's 3D. Normal average viewer looking at it is going to be fine with it as far as the illusion of 3D. And I'm sitting here trying to scroll it, but we already watched the loop a little while ago for a while. So this is the little structure for it. Here's where the planar tracker is, which is where I'm tracking the things. The media out is what's being popped out. The render you need to render stuff, 3D merge node that everything's kind of going into. So I got a 3D camera, which I probably, do I even need? Oh, I guess I do. So although I could still see them on there when I deleted it, like it's right there, it's just tiny. So I could probably get away with not having a 3D camera on there. I haven't adjusted anything on it. It's probably meant to make things look more three-dimensional when you have a bunch of three-dimensional objects. And I didn't want to go through the hassle of kind of like mapping her face out that way. Anyway, and then this image plane is what, this media is the glasses. So you'll see that a lot. So this is the first little segment, and then you go down here because Fusion Allows you to go from sort of clip to clip as long as you have the clip stuff set on. Then we go into a close-up. This is a split screen shot in the normal show, so that's why there's this big blank space here. There'd be somebody else. And then this is another shot of hers. You can kind of see in the thumbnail, but I've cropped into just her hands on this one, so I don't need to do any glasses work. And then we're coming to here, which is same sort of thing. She moves her head around, does that kind of deal, and that's there. And that's what's going on. We have finally gotten to the watching me work segment, because what's going to happen now is I'm going to jump onto this clip right there. And as you can tell, this is a pretty long clip. All of these little white marks right here are keyframes for the little glasses that I've been doing. So I'm going to check, make sure this is proxied. I turn off the high quality and the motion blur for the playback. Turn on the proxy for the playback. Bump this up a little bit, 200%. And then I'm at the beginning of these. So this will be interesting as well, because there's little moments where she sort of touches stuff. Not as much here, but definitely right near the end here. Wrong button. There we go. So right through here, she reaches up and crosses over the plane of the glasses right there. So I'm going to have to do some sort of secondary effect where these things like bzz a little bit or react somehow, because they can't just like not react basically. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now, basically all I'm doing is dragging the corner pins, I'm key animating the corner pins to basically look better. And I'll back up. And I'm not going to do every single frame, because you don't need to. Every other frame, I'll probably start with about every 3 to 5 frames, and then if there's like a particular wonk or whatever, then I'll concentrate on that. So processing wise, you can see these are here and this is here. It's not there, it's an illusion. So if I grab a corner, you can see it pop back. I have to kind of grab it and then do a Control Z to go back a step, and then it sort of pops into the place that it actually is, and that's just a memory issue. It's no big deal. So I can grab this and basically just kind of start messing around with this way until I get sort of the look of where I want it, which is right there. One of the things, it's kind of weird to keep track of because these glasses are cat-eyed, so there's no sort of parallels to keep track of. Like you've got these 2 little bolts right here, and I could sort of try to line up this green line with these 2 little bolts there, but that's about it. Well, you know, and these tips are basically in this, but as far as like the up and down, it's a little tougher. So I try to kind of keep an eye on these sidelines, these sides here, to try to keep them parallel, which clearly they aren't right now. So something closer to that would be sort of parallel. But then for anybody that knows anything about perspective, you'd know that there's a vanishing point, right? So, and I don't want to go full on into perspective because there's plenty of videos out there, but any sort of picture has a horizon line, which is basically where your eye level is, which in this I think is probably right about in here. And then you've got, yeah. And then for like comic book art and that kind of thing, you've got 1-point perspective where it's all going back to kind of a single point. That's also, Stanley Kubrick did a lot of that in all of his movies. Stanley Kubrick was a huge 1-point perspective guy, so you go back and watch The Shining or Full Metal Jacket or Clockwork Orange or any of that, and you're going to get shots where everything is just kind of receding into a single point. Then you've got 2-point perspective where stuff kind of goes off the side, and 3-point perspective where you can have things go sort of in 3 dimensions. And this is a fairly flat shot, so the idea, I wonder if I can let's turn the planar tracker off for a second. There we go. So you can kind of see like these glasses, if I was to draw if I was to draw like a perspective line here, the bottoms of these are at an angle, obviously. They're going to there, and then these ones are going to there, and that vanishing point is up off the screen somewhere over here. So it means that, you know, in theory, I could try to do some sort of fake horizon line, but it's going to be moving, and I wonder if that would work. I could probably take paper and do some sort of exacting thing, but that's too much work. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it. If it was so 3-point perspective is really good when you're looking down on a thing. It's kind of like the cityscape shots where you're doing like the drone shots where you're looking down and you're seeing all the buildings kind of go down. Because then imagine a square. Do I have anything that's square around here that I can grab really quick? I can actually. Hold that thought. This is a box, which could function much like a building in real life if you were to build like little miniatures or whatever. And this is a Scotch box, so if you're underage, don't drink. It's bad for you. So on a 1-point perspective type of thing, you'd be looking at it more or less straight on. And if you had the opportunity, if it was offset from the exact thing, these lines would kind of converge to a point. If it's 2-point perspective and it's kind of this way, then these lines would converge to a point and those lines would converge to a point. Now, if it's 3-point perspective, so you're looking down on a city or something like this, pretend this is you're looking at the top of a building, the top of the building doing this, the top of the building's receding there, and then these lines are receding down to a point. That's 3-point perspective. So this is a flat image though. So 1 point, some sort of fake 1-point perspective is about the best I'm gonna get, unless she like tilted her head down and did something really weird. So that's okay, and then, you know, in theory, these two lines I might make slightly toward each other, but I definitely rather have them parallel or towards each other than like this, right? Because that's going to look really funny and weird when the graphic is in. Let's see if I'll turn the graphic back on here. Right, so see how warped this thing looks. And that's no good. So I'd much rather have something there. And despite this being a flat surface, the idea that I have it offset, if I was to put it right on the lenses, then it'd be moved over this direction. But I want it to look like it's out in front of them, so it's optical illusion time, basically. So bam, that looks fine for now. The thing is you get too like micromanagey with this stuff on that first pass, and you'll never finish the first pass. It's much like writing. Finish what you start writing. If you start rewriting as you're writing, you're fucked. You will more than likely never finish that thing. So finish things, then go back and polish things. So move 3. That looks pretty good, but you could see it start to kind of tilt down because this line started doing yar. So I'm going to grab this line. I know that sound effect was super helpful. And then I'm going to go back a second and get a little better idea. So there's a little light spot right here. So anything that I could get a hold of for reference at this point, because it's just totally tedious hand keyframing. So it's like there's this little spot here, and I get an idea where this stuff is, an idea of that angle, and I can see this angle going. You can already see this angle like going down, right? From there, and her head is going back, so it makes even less sense that this line is going away from the motion of the glasses. So I will grab this, go clear up to here with it, and that's better. You can still see it looks a little weird, but the lenses, the box looks a little weird. You have to kind of pay more attention to the lenses because the box is a lie. For whatever reason, the program doesn't update or refresh it as much as it should. So when I touch it, it's like, oh, there's where the box actually is. So that's today. That is the glorious fun. And then, of course, control save as often as possible. That's the glorious fun I'm going to have today. To be fair, this specific clip is probably one of the more difficult ones. This clip here is just her kind of looking, I think. I think a lot of these are just going to be kind of front views of her just sort of looking and doing stuff. and it's not going to be that big of a deal. This is down by her eyebrow, see here. And by the time we get out to here, it's up there. So we got to do that. We got to tilt this back a little bit to kind of match what her head is doing, although it looks, these don't look like they're doing the same thing as the glasses, right? It kind of looks like it should be more like this to be right. But in motion, I'm not going to worry about it too much. That's where the finger goes over, so I'm not going to worry about that at all for now. And then the keyframes, for those of you familiar with keyframes, I'm basically making little keyframes here. The little orange dots is when they're active. So that will basically adjust stuff. This is specifically keyframed, so it's not going to smooth out keyframes in between, unfortunately. So I'm basically just going to start doing this for a while. But if you're one of the lucky ones watching it after I've edited all of this out, then I'll basically just leave any little bits where I might say something interesting. As you can see, I kind of set this parallel line up here, and to set this one up to be, or this line here, to set this one up to be parallel with it, made this look really weird. It goes from there to there, basically, and that's no good. So I have to redo that. That's keyframing. It's literally animating. And that looks, so that's a case of, that was the original one. That was the one that I thought was really messed up. And that's the one after the one that I thought was really messed up. So that was definitely a case of where that one frame, because this just went back to normal for the, this third frame looks as good as the first frame, or looks like it belongs with the first frame in this little 3-frame sequence, where the second one, which is this one, was the one that I had to just do a bunch of adjusting to. So I don't know what went on there, but whatever. So that looks fine. Oracle's getting ready to go out, which interestingly, story-wise, has nothing to do with the story and is not mentioned in the story. We just wanted to have things for her to do, because the idea a lot of times, what was the thought process behind that? Basically, a lot of, I mean, you want your characters to have things that they're doing. Sometimes that thing is direct. So a lot of times when you see Oracle in the comics, or you see Felicity in Arrow, and she's got her computer banks and she's just typing on the keyboard and doing crazy stuff, and the actions are matching whatever the dialogue is going about. The idea of having a pair of smart glasses, in my opinion, is so that Oracle is able to do normal life stuff while she's also helping Black Canary fight crime, and theoretically all the other heroes, which you can't. I spent so much time making these little icons up the side and you can't see them. But again, I could always, there's a close-up or something where they may show up. Anyway, so we basically, there's 5 episodes of this little web series that we're doing, and in each episode we wanted her to be doing something, and if that something wasn't directly related to helping Black Canary out, as far as the action is concerned, that was okay. So in this one, the idea of the episode is that Black Canary is infiltrating this little mafia dude in his house, and she dresses up like an escort. So she goes into the sneaks into the bathroom, puts on their little costume, or puts on an evening gown from her costume, which you can kind of see happening down here actually. And then she puts on some really nice makeup, and then she goes upstairs and tries to infiltrate the organized crime thing in order to get some information. And of course, because it's sort of a web series based on action and comedy, things go hilariously wrong. At the same time, she's talking to Oracle, trying to get the scoop on stuff. We decided to parallel it, and it initially came out accidental, but it worked out fine. Where we thought, well, Oracle can also be putting on makeup, getting ready to just go out. Whether she's on a date or whether she just wants to go out or whatever, she's just doing that with her little glasses here. What it really boiled down to, and here's the filmmaking bit of it, is we had a house that we could use for Oracle's house, and that house we had to find 5 locations within the house for her to be doing stuff, so she's not always in the same spot. So we had one where she's outside. We had one where she's in the kitchen, basically making herself some pasta. and we have one where she's doing exercise. Yeah, one where she's in the bathroom, and one where there's only one that's sort of in the generic brain center of the Oracle house, where she has computer monitors around her, and then she also has her little goggles or little smart glasses, and she's the most Oracle in that one episode, where there's no other sort of ulterior motive. But every single one of the other ones, there's something else going on at the same time that she's helping out here. I'm going to attempt to play this back, but it's not going to work. So the smaller position actually looks fine. Fine for now. That's a pass. And then I can come in later. A lot of times when I'll work on a project, I'll just set it aside for sometimes even a couple of days. It actually looks fine. Aside from the end where fingers go through, but I'll fix that. So I'm going to call that one good for now. And I made this neat little post-it that says next 4, which what that means is all the ones that I split, I numbered, and I've used 1 through 3. So now I have to use 4. And I wrote it on a post-it because I was working on this last night. So this will be new and exciting. So this was the original HUD glasses that I was trying to build before I figured all of that shit out. Those are mostly in like 3 or 4 other videos of me just trying to do the same fucking thing over and over in different ways. So now, so this is the remnants of that, and that's what that looked like. Larger, not as rounded corners, random stuff in different directions. So the cool part now is the first thing I got to remember always to do, right click, turn off high quality, turn off the motion blur, turn on the proxy. I have the proxy set to the maximum proxying, so hopefully that helps. Delete that, HUD lenses and image planes, master merge. All that goes away. So we have this little 3D merge node. That's where everything goes into. Then that goes into the renderer, and then the renderer goes into the planar tracker, and the planar tracker has little 4-corner pins. This is this media out. That's the final result. The media in here is this without the tracking and whatnot. So what I need to do now is create a planar, an image plane, and then go grab my little HUD stuff. So these are all the little files that I printed out. I had them all numbered. I used 3, so now we're on 4. So I drag 4 down, attach it to the image plane. That basically just grants me the ability to be able to do 3D stuff to it. So I go back to the planar tracker here, and I need to expand this out a little bit in order to make these as big as I want them to be. So that's the first thing. And then in order to, again, make them sort of look 3-dimensional, unfortunately, I could make them look a little larger. There we go. And slightly skewed. Okay, and then I can't remember, I think image plane is where I do it. So there's a bunch of options that pop up over here when you're working on these different nodes. So I clicked on image plane. I'm going to open this up. Whoop. I'm going to open this up and grab my opacity and turn that down. Yoink. And that's what's causing them to get less opaque, more translucent, I guess, and also to the point of being able to see her eyes through them. If I was to do the offset effect like in the other ones, I drag them. I don't think you can drag 2 at the same time. Let's try. Nope. That is a fail on Davinci's part. So something like that makes them look a little popped up, but now they look a little big to me. So I'm going to shrink them down. And her face is almost front view, so in theory, they wouldn't kind of be as offset as they are, but it kind of sells it to me, or it sells it well enough. So Do a quick save in case everything crashes. Kaboom. And I'm getting this first one as good as I can because it will affect all the other ones. This little green is theoretically, hey, it's processed and ready to go, but we'll see how that goes. And the answer is badly. Except for right at the end. It looks like it's kind of slides more off at the end. It follows pretty good. So yeah, I'm generally happy with that actually. One of the things about 4K monitors that they're really cool for gaming and watching TV on and all that, but not every program is sort of adapted to them quite yet. So like Davinci and Premiere both, they still have these tiny ass fucking graphics and all this dead, I mean, this is dead space, this is all dead space, there's, you know, so you kind of blow the icons up a little bit, like look at all this, right? And look at all this underneath here. Like every single one of these icons could be twice as large as it is right now, filling up this area and be, you know, 5 times more readable. This project's been wearing me down. I like the work that we did on it. It's just lasted forever because of this post-production. If I hadn't have done, if we had just used the computer monitors, I might have still had to do graphics on them, but it would have been so much easier to do. And then I still have to color correct. That hopefully won't take that long to do. And then we have to mix sound and all that. So, you know, it's still going to be like a couple of months or more before it comes out. All right, so here's another case where this is the old style. Here's all the old garbage. So we're going to be a little smarter this time. That's the renderer. That's the master merge. I labeled that one at some point in the past. And goodbye. Good and bye. All right, so now we're going to go backwards this time. I'm going to grab this first. And then with it selected, I'm going to hit the image plane because then it just saves me an extra click because these things are already attached. So that's great. Now we're going to do that. And then, oh, we don't have a 3D camera. And I wouldn't have, I would have had trouble figuring out what was going on, except I did that little 3D camera experiment earlier. So that's cool. So we attach the 3D camera. Attach the 3D. Oh, I'm trying to attach it to the render node. Pay attention. Bonk. Well, that's, oh, and forgot. Turn off high quality. Turn off motion blur. Turn on proxy. So what happens when you first attach a 3D camera to a thing, when you first attach it, as you can see, the lens, this representation of the lens here of this camera, it's through the 3D plane, meaning that it's filming what's behind it as opposed to the 3D plane. That's fine. It's basically like defaulting to be set at 0. All you have to do is, oh, and what I'll do is I'll come up here. It's this, is it this one? No, it's this little icon here. Does 2 screens, right? So I want my media out on the right-hand side because I'm weird that way. And then I'm going to put the thing here. And then you can manipulate any tool by selecting it, right? So that just did that. Camera just lit up, as you could see. And you can view any tool sort of downstream of that. So I have the master merge node on the viewer so that if I just had the camera, that's all it would be, right? And it's like, oh, I can't see the thing, even though I can select, there's the master merge node that I have selected, or there's the image plane, which is identical to the camera, which is the point of all of this, right? There's the original imagery stuff, which you can't manipulate in 3D space because it doesn't have a 3D image plane on it, so that's why the little icon changed. So I always grab something further downstream. The render is not a good choice, I guess. Usually the merge nodes are your best choice, right? So you grab the merge node, and now I have all of this stuff and the camera. And then I select the camera, just about grab the merge node. And you can see the camera light up, right? And then I back the camera up. And as soon as that camera breaks the plane of the image, see, you can see it I'll let go so that it'll render there. So you can see that coming into form, right? And that's also a really good way. On that previous one, I kind of grabbed the image plane and stretched it. And that was not the most, I realize now, not the most optional way to do that in order to make the lenses bigger on that specific angle. What you really want to do is back your 3D camera up until they are in the frame the way that you want them, right? So here they're a little too big. Can't even see the rounded corners yet. So I'm grabbing the blue axis so it's backing straight up. If I was worried about that, as far as I can right click out here, go down to camera and go in, I'm in a perspective view right now, I can go into front view, and that's basically, there's the camera, there's the thing. That's not super helpful though, right? That's kind of an obnoxious view. I can also go top, and then I would have to, because these things are essentially one-dimensional, you can't see them, so then I would have to grab like this image plane. That's where this image plane is. So if I have the image plane, but then I come down here and grab the little camera handle, then I can see this is kind of useful, where I know that the image plane is clear out to there. That's assuming I just don't do it on the screen over here, right? But so for me, I do use the front view sometimes, or the top or the sides. Side views are really good if you have several objects. So if you're going from the left, if there were other three-dimensional things that I wanted to offset, side view is great for that, because then you just select them and you drag them to or fro. I did that when I built this originally to make sure some of the text was like over the top of some of the other text, depending on what order you wanted it in or whatever. Perspective. We shrink this down a little bit. There we go. And then I'm looking over here, and honestly, that's probably pretty close to what I want it to do, or size I want it to be, right? So let's just leave it here for now. Glad she kept her hands. I didn't even think about that when we were shooting, which was really dumb of me. Glad she kept her hand out of her face. As you can tell, the tracking is going super awry down here. When you track stuff, you're basically grabbing like a section of the image and using that as kind of your track source. And it may be that I grabbed something that I shouldn't have. Her hand doesn't ever come over that right lens either. So let's do that. Because we're wanting to learn some stuff,